Sila tane nunakingata inyo kulukasuag. Inyo kulum tautu kameo nutkakawa. Agalan beak siagaruado sa perinaksimaru. Kinalif sapiak tautu kameo ilamita.
Hey, so we're here to talk about an interesting little game that came out a couple weeks ago in the middle of the rush. Weird time to release the game. It's called Never Alone, and it's about the Inupiat culture, which is like an Alaskan native, I don't think tribe is the right word, but you know, a native people. And it's it's like a folk story in a way, but it's also interspersed with these videos that tell you about their culture and kind of inform you in that way. I've probably played the least of this. Matt, you played a good amount, and Kyle, you played a good amount too, right?
Yeah.
Yep, that's a good description. The fun thing about it is that if you actually take the time to watch the videos, and they're actually super short, they're like no longer than the ads on our website, basically, only they actually have good stuff in it. But it's nice little bite-sized stories that you hear from the actual tribe and people who lived with the tribes up in Alaska, and they would tell you a story about their life, about their lore, about stories that were passed down through generations, and then shortly thereafter, you'd kind of play through either a similar situation or you would see an example of that story play out in front of you in the game.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting back and forth because it's basically a side-scrolling game, but sort of like, you know, any other game where you would pick up a collectible, like a data log or something instead. It's like, this video is now available to access.
Like a codex that you actually read.
Yeah. And then, yeah, Kyle, you've played quite a bit of it, but you're not.
Yeah, I did not sit through one of those videos. I started.
Not even one?
I started one, and I was like, oh, this is very well produced. Look at this. And I'm like, okay, time to play video games.
You didn't care what they had to say or anything like that?
No, there's definitely, hey, use your medium. If you want to communicate these things to us, do it within the game. Don't just give us optional videos to click on. Is how I feel about things like that.
Okay, so how do you typically feel about, say, like Metroid Prime, which 100% of the story is
I don't read those. You don't read those either.
Really?
Yeah, not 100% of the story of Metroid Prime is the text things. It's you on this adventure. The backstory maybe, oh, the space pirates took some Metroids and put them in. But like, I don't care about that. I care about me on this planet and my progression through it.
This is a weird, stupid tangent. But did you at least come across the one where they were talking about the space pirates trying to reproduce the morph ball?
No, that's hilarious.
Yeah, dude, it was hilarious.
What
happened? Like they were crushing people. Like trying to figure out how Samus does the morph ball.
So again, actually, no, so it's not such a tangent. Again, in this case, show us that. Don't tell us that in a little log. That'd be way funnier to be able to see.
But that wouldn't make sense though, because she's in this abandoned thing as part of the isolation. But it's like, okay, if you want to explore this and find this out.
So basically, what we're establishing right now, Kyle, is that you're missing out on a lot of good stuff because you have this weird kind of pretension against extended content or
I'd
something.
say it's the opposite of pretension because I'm lazy and unwilling to read data logs.
But they made them so short and so bite-sized and well-produced.
Yeah, I know. And
like if you're not going to like anything of that nature, then you're not going to like this at all because they make it as accessible as possible, I think.
But this actually does kind of come back to my core, because I've only played like an hour of it. But in that hour, I kind of have this feeling, like this weird split feeling. It's like, okay, this is a cool sort of artistic experience, cultural set piece. Not really that good of a game.
Right. There are parts of this game that are dysfunctional. So I love playing as the fox more than the girl.
Yeah.
And who wouldn't want to be a little fox? Sometimes she'll just hop off a ledge and kill herself. Like, the AI is dumb. It is legit dumb. There are parts where it gets frustrating that the AI is not doing what you want it to.
I feel like even like aiming the bolas is kind of a tricky thing, like trying to figure out how to get the angle you want.
Yeah.
I kind of like that a little bit.
I don't mind it.
Because it's all about where you're aiming and then throwing. It's not as intuitive as you would think, which I I liked it because I felt like I was struggling to learn how to throw it the same way that this little girl would. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Fine. That's just what I draw from it. But I feel like the overall controls were actually pretty solid for especially like a downloadable platformer game modern day.
Oh no, 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 no! These controls are.
I'm not going to
oh,
compare
man.
it to say something like Little Big Planet, which is clearly built to be a full-on crazy platforming game. This is built to kind of be more of a cultural and educational tool while
That's the
still being
thing.
a fun game.
You got to focus on that first. You have to focus on making controlling your character good before you can communicate your culture to us. Because if moving your character around and hopping isn't fun first, then the other things won't register.
So you don't want your game to kind of feel like you're in an environment while you're controlling. Like think about running around in the snow and on glaciers and stuff like that.
Well,
as a little girl.
I do want that to impact the gameplay, but I mean, it's like it's just some of the simple mechanics, like just jumping and grabbing a ledge sometimes.
Right.
Like it doesn't feel like consistent enough.
It's a simple thing of basically if you tap left, sometimes your character will walk backwards, and so you have to like tap left twice to like make them turn around and then throw the bola. Like just instant moments like that where it's actually like really hard to do what you would do with Mega Man. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And I get that. Yeah, I'm a little girl, but when I'm a fox, let me be a cool fox. They're
You
only
are a cool fox.
I guess. The fox can climb up walls. It can do wall jumps.
Yeah.
It can talk to the spirits. It can control the spirits. And there are moments where like the fox needs to be in a specific point so that the girl can like swing from a thing, and then the fox will be like, I'm an AI, and like walk away, and then I die. It's
So
like,
the
fox.
spirits that help you throughout the game,
Yeah.
the fox, the mystical fox that you control can communicate with those people, with those
Yeah.
spirits, whatever they are.
Yeah, I think they're called helper spirits or something like that.
And you know,
Helping.
through a little bit of trial and error, which we seem to be missing quite a lot these days. We've complained so much over the last 2 generations for games holding our hand.
Yeah.
Over a little bit of trial and error, I figured out that the fox just has to be facing the direction that you want, say, the spirit to move.
Yeah, but then the fox kind of has an AI and it will move on its own from time to time.
But if you put it somewhere deliberately and then switch to the character and start moving,
Then he's like, oh, I'm a little AI. And then he
it
moves
didn't
on.
do that for me.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't
maybe
do it every time.
Maybe it is
it's
a little bit
inconsistent.
inconsistent in that sense. But you have to imagine also a little bit. You don't have to forgive it. We don't have to review it. We don't have to give it a score for this.
exactly, yeah.
You don't have to give it a break for
Yeah.
this so much, but do understand that this is the first game this studio has made.
You know what I like as well? You're not killing things.
Yeah.
You have a weapon, but you don't generally use it to kill anything.
Like, did you guys, I know you didn't, you probably didn't get as far as like the polar bear level where you actually have to fool the polar bear into breaking the ice.
Yes, I was there. That part,
and
Yeah,
escape
that's
the
pretty
dead.
part
early
is
on.
stupid.
I didn't get through that whole thing, but you're talking about the glaciers jumping across. And
It's
then
a little
you
after
can
that.
follow
find
bear's
yourself,
den.
you find yourself, yeah, in the den.
yeah.
I loved figuring out how to get out of there, and I, like it didn't take me very long at all, but it took me longer than that should have, but not very long to figure that out. I love the fact that you're just fooling it, making it go a certain way. You hit it in the butt.
Instead of shooting it a bunch of times and it
Right,
dies.
you hit it in the
mean.
butt with a bola, and it
Yeah.
gets pissed off, and it rams the ice wall, and it breaks the ice wall down, and you can escape. Like you have to think very clever. You have to survive, but you're not a mean spirit. Like the energy of the game is very consistent.
Sure.
Even if the gameplay sometimes lacks a little bit, there's no consequence to dying. That's like saying, "Oh well, BioShock was too hard." It wasn't too hard because you never lose anything when you die. You start 15 feet back, and you can take a different approach when you come back. Like there's no consequence to dying or failing.
One of my favorite times watching them die is what's funny is when one of them dies, the other one gets very sad. I was the fox, and the girl was stupid. She just like jumped off the ledge again, and then the fox got sad, and then it got crushed beneath it. And it's just like, you dumb animals. Like, just I wish the AI were a little smarter, and it's just clear that like not a lot of effort was put into it being good at like. When the northern lights are swooping you up,
Yeah.
so many times it just got like, oh, I'm behind you. Like, hold on, just be smarter.
I actually really appreciated the Northern Lights segment too.
Oh my gosh.
Because okay, growing up in northern Michigan, I saw the Northern Lights a lot.
Wow.
And so when I see a video with the Northern Lights in the thumbnail, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a cool little package about what they think of the Northern Lights. I was different from what I know. I watch it. 30 seconds later, I come out of it enlightened, and suddenly these Northern Lights creatures. The story they tell is something like the Northern Lights are actually like, I think they told 2 stories. One of them's like they're the children that passed on too early,
Whoa.
and they're the spirits of them.
Yeah.
And this might actually be the same part of that story, but if you distract them too much or get their attention, they'll swoop down and cut off your head, and they'll play football with it. Like, scary story. It's kind of funny.
But yeah, I
But
mean, that's the interesting part.
when you
about the
move on
folklore.
after that video, then you understand why the Northern Light creatures exist and what they're trying to
Wait,
do.
the narrator says they come down to get anybody who doesn't listen to the elder.
I think that's what they mean. The elder in the video told
Yeah.
the story of don't get their attention, don't mess with them too much, or something to that effect. My layman's terms are not doing it justice, obviously.
Sure.
But the general idea is don't piss them off or don't treat them poorly. Like listen to your elders.
But
I
yeah,
think
so
that's what
basically,
they meant.
I think now we get away from the nitpicky stuff. I think that is kind of the neat thing is to get another side of folklore, like stuff that we're not used to having heard over and over and over again. Like even the little like impish guys at the beginning that are kind of mischievous. I mean, you can kind of maybe draw parallels to leprechauns or something like that. But they're their own thing, and
They're just called little people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think.
But in the language of these people who have lived in the same place
Sure,
for centuries,
yeah.
that's what you would call them, because you just look at them and they're people, but they're little, and compared to us, you see what kind of their culture is like, and as a cultural device.
Yeah. So I mean,
really
I think that's
appreciate
I
this
kind of think that's where the value is in that. And I don't know what if any other conclusions you guys want to wrap it up with, but.
If you want to communicate ideas, make sure your game is good first.
This game I think is perfectly fine, especially for the first attempt for a game studio that was formed for this purpose. I think these people have made leaps and bounds of progress in making a game educational and informative, but like culturally significant, while still having it exist kind of hand in hand with a lot of the other games that are coming out, specifically downloadables, like downloadable only. Like network games and things like that. We're starting to get games on our Vita and our phones and all this stuff. When you compare it to the rest of the kind of stuff that's been coming out, that's just like, hey, I'm going to make a platformer and you can do this, and it usually sucks. This is actually like,
You're right.
It's significant
unique.
in a big way.
Yeah, it's
and
its
it
own
doesn't
thing.
have to be about the gameplay, but they clearly care about it. Because I actually had a great experience with it. It might not be consistent, but I'd say if they take a second shot at it, the sequel, it'll be better. By seeing what they did with this game and what they paid attention to, all the art, they did pay a lot of attention to the gameplay. I thought it was actually pretty solid considering what it could have been.
Oh man, no.
Well, we don't need to debate
Agreed,
about it.
agreed to disagree.
Yeah,
on that.
yeah. That's
I mean,
fine.
I
We
think if
gotta-
it's something to interest you, just kind of go at it with a grain of salt and, be able to appreciate for what it is and realize that it's not perfect.
Good conclusion, Blood.
When I was young, my mom, whenever the Northern Lights came out, she just whistle.
Boy, they come alive. Just keep whistling and that aurora will just like, you can almost hear it.
And then she explained to me a little bit later that those are children, and children who've passed away when they were children. You don't want to draw them in too much, is what she said, because then they could play football with your head, play Eskimo football, and that's what they want to do. They're always playing, those children up there.
Don't play out without your hood on. If you don't have your hood on, the aurora person is going to come down and chop your head off and play ball with your head.
It wasn't like they were trying to do bad, or it was like a scary story or anything like that. It was just, that's how it was. That's what it was.